Hello everybody, welcome to Best Places to Work Tour 2018 at London Stop. How are you all? Yep, good, lovely. Okay, my name is Julie Bishop and I'm the founder of Job Hop, and I was really excited to be invited here today to be your MC for the morning and also to be the session panel moderator. So we're going to have a great panel for you, and we're going to be doing Q&A sessions with some of our 2018 winners of the Best Places to Work 2018 tour. And I was very, as I said, very excited. I've been blogging for Glassdoor for a while now. So when they asked me to be part of this, how could I refuse? So I'm going to go through a little bit of an agenda with you all. We're going to have today some exclusive UK-specific data, and that's going to be shared with you all today with somebody here from the Norwich Business School. And following that, we will then have our panel up here. And as I said, we will be going through a few Q&A session with them. So at the end of that session, you'll have your own opportunity to ask some questions as well. And then we were supposed to be having a coffee break. But as you can see, it's absolutely packed. And we've got so many people on the live stream today as well. So hello, everybody on the live stream as well. So we're going to move the coffee break to the ends now. And we're just going to run all the way through. And you can do your networking and have a coffee right at the end. So instead of the coffee break, we're going to have up here Samantha Zupan. She is the Vice President of Global Corporate Communications and Employer Brand for Glassdoor. And then joining her will be Carol Pascoe-Demergue. She will be coming up here and having the fireside chat with Samantha. And Carol is the CMO of L'Oreal HR Group. So that's going to be very exciting. In a minute, I'm going to bring up here John Lamphere, and he is our Glassdoor Vice President and MD of EMEA. But before that, we're going to go through a few housekeeping tips. So, show of hands, who's on Twitter? Right, loads of you, that's brilliant. So please join along today using the hashtag GDTour. Also share across all your social media platforms. Totally engage with us. You can use tag us into all your posts if you want to, and that's at Glassdoor UK. Now, you'll be very pleased to know it's free Wi-Fi. So everyone's probably saying, you know, what's the Wi-Fi? It's the most important question usually. Free Wi-Fi, and it is, I think, the Mayfair. Yes, okay. I was just told that just a minute ago, so hasn't sunk in yet. And then toilet breaks, if you need to go straight out the doors there, and then chuck a right, and that's where the toilets are. So that's the second most important thing, as long as we get Wi-Fi right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up here John Lamphere, and he's going to say a few words. And as I said, he is the Glassdoor Vice President and Managing Director, EMEA. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Julie. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the 2018 Best Places to Work London Tour Stop. We are thrilled to have you all here today, and also thrilled with the amount of people that have registered for live stream. So it's really incredible to see everybody. Just before I get started, I just wanted to say I know a lot of people had expected to meet our CEO Robert today. Unfortunately, he's been detained in San Francisco, and it's completely unavoidable. But I am really honoured to be kicking off this event. But first, a little bit about me. I'm the first VP and Managing Director for Glassdoor in EMEA. And this is really big for us. The EMEA region, I've really recently joined from an ad tech company called Quantcast. I'm a veteran of the ad tech scene and the tech scene across Europe. Been an early employee in both Yahoo and Facebook. The excitement that I feel around this organization is incredible, and it's really tangible from both a job seeker and an employer point of view. Glassdoor is now the #2 job site in the US and the fastest growing large job site in the UK. We have insights on 740,000 companies worldwide, and this is growing every day. A growing number of companies are using Glassdoor to showcase their employer brand and post their jobs. We work with 30% of the FTSE 100 and many of Europe's largest companies, from Unilever, Barclays and SAP, through to all the companies that you're going to hear from today: EasyJet, Nando's, Telefonica, Facebook and L'Oreal. And these are incredible brands that have been doing an incredible job in this space, and I'm really excited to hear from everybody. We continue to see phenomenal growth across Europe. In the last 3 months, I have been busy planning our continued growth in the UK and an expansion into other markets across the continent. And why are we doing this? Because Glassdoor has become an intrinsic part of today's candidate experience. Whether candidates find a job listing on Glassdoor or elsewhere, they visit with Glassdoor at every stage of the job process, from initial research on a company through to research on interview questions and the interview process. The candidates then again come back to Glassdoor to do research into salaries so they can better negotiate the offer as they come through to the acceptance stage. The level of transparency that Glassdoor has brought to the world of work has led to a deep pool of highly informed candidates, which is something that we have not seen before. Our research shows that an informed candidate is considered to be better prepared, have more realistic expectations about jobs, and once hired, will stay longer in their role. So we are really excited to be driving this shift in the way companies hire, while being at the center of what makes a company a best places to work. Speaking of which, you will hear from some of the award-winning companies really, really soon. The Best Places to Work event is exciting for us. We have published the Best Places to Work ranking in the UK for the last 4 years and in France and Germany for the last 3 years. Employers that are named Best Places to Work are the best of the best. They have gained this accolade through reviews that have been left voluntarily by the people who know them best, which is their employees. And this is important. This is actually really, really important, because employers are the lifeblood of any organization or any business. They give business this strategic and tactical advantage and helps them win out against competitors. The companies you're going to hear from today have really raised the bar in creating a work environment that encourages every employee to be their best every day. It promises to be a fantastic morning. I'm really excited. I can't wait to hear from all our speakers. I'm actually really looking forward to meeting as many people as I can over the course of the day. So thank you. Please enjoy the morning. Julie, back over to you.
Thank you, John. Now I'm very excited to bring up to the stage George Daskalakis. George is a finance lecturer. He's also a researcher for Norwich Business School. And this is exclusive. For the first time, there is Glassdoor data that George and his team have been using, and they have found the link between employee satisfaction and the performance of your company. So George is going to explain all about that now, so it's very exciting. Put your hands together for George.
Good morning. It's great to see so many of you here today. So let me tell you just a bit what I'm going to present. So as Julie said, we did some research for the first time using Glassdoor UK data and tried to figure out whether there is a link between employee satisfaction and corporate performance. Okay? So let me give you some background. Now, a few weeks ago, on March 6th, Sainsbury's announced £100 million investment into their employees. These are supposed to come with a pay increase from £8 per hour to £9.20 and £9.80 for those working in London. Now, I want to point out that this is significantly higher than the minimum rate that the government has announced for over 25 that will come into effect from 1st April of £7.83. Now, the reason behind this pay increase, according to the Director of Operations and Retail in Sainsbury's, is because they want to make their employees feel rewarded. They want to motivate them so they provide the best customer service for obviously the customers. Now, the way to finance these investments is by cutting down costs. So primarily what they want to do is to restructure their store management. Now, the idea is that by paying a living rate and not the minimum rate to their employees, they will be able to motivate them. And at the same time, by the restructuring of the store management, they will be able to run the best shops in the industry. Now, both actions together, according to Sainsbury's, will make them better positioned to be able to compete with, for instance, Tesco, Asda, Morrisons, and particularly the discounters Aldi and Lidl. Now, for those of you who have actually followed this news, you will know that they have attracted some criticism. Now, the reason is that those cost cuttings, they will come by the restructuring that I mentioned, but also involve stop paying breaks. Now, interestingly, not paying breaks is not uncommon among UK retailers and wholesalers. Now, most importantly, basically Sainsbury's claims that by doing that, despite stop paying breaks, the average store employee will be better off. Most of them will be better off. In fact, annually, they have calculated a pay increase of 8.4%. Now, this corresponds approximately to £1,360 per year. So we have on the one hand the stop paying breaks, but we have the pay increase as well. So the question is, how did shareholders react to this news? Because obviously it seems, at first glance at least, that these are good news for the employees. Now, in order to do that, I would like to show you what happened to Sainsbury's stock price during that week of the announcement. Now, remember, the announcement was made on the 6th of March. Now, on the 5th of March, the Sainsbury's stock price closed at approximately £253. After the announcement, the stock price closed £8 less per share, which is a huge drop. So I want to point out that on that day, there wasn't any other financially relevant announcement that could have affected the stock price. So it seems that that was a result of the announcement to increase the pay rates. Now, the reason I'm saying that is that cost cuttings, that was the second part of the announcement, are commonly considered good news for shareholders or by shareholders, simply because if you cut down costs, you boost profitability, and therefore it's good news. So that drop seems to be the result of the part of the announcement concerning the pay increase. Now, in order to make sure that that's indeed the case, because one might argue that, okay, the stock price for Sainsbury's dropped 3.2% approximately, but perhaps there were some other developments that influenced the industry as a whole. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case. On that day, Tesco's stock increased by 3.4% approximately. Morrisons, it was virtually unchanged. Now, one might argue then that perhaps there were some sort of developments that affected the market as a whole. Again, that doesn't seem to be the case, because FTSE increased by almost 0.5%. So what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that basically shareholders weren't happy with the pay increase. They weren't happy with that, so when they got that information, they acted on that, and therefore the stock price decreased. Now, was that reaction satisfied? Well, the short answer is no, and I'm going to tell you why. Take, for example, Costco. Now, Costco is a US wholesaler. Now, those guys are providing their employees with a living wage basically always. Now, not only do they provide a leading rate of pay, they also contribute to health benefits. According to their CEO, Craig Zelniak, basically, it's good for the employees. People need to get paid a living wage. They need to have health benefits. It's good for the economy as well, not only for the employees and the companies. It's good for the economy because there is more money around the market, and it's good because employees are healthier, so we have a healthier country. So it's that simple. Now, this is what Costco actually does. And not only do they provide a living wage, actually, recent data indicate that indeed they're providing a leading rate of pay. Now, this is for the 20 largest US retailers and wholesalers, and the data are from September 2017. Now, as you can see, obviously, Costco is ranked first. And most importantly, if you compare it with the direct competitors of Costco, which is Target and Walmart, they actually pay $3.50 more per hour. Now, not only do they provide a great rate of pay, they actually close down their stores during public holidays. The idea is that they want their employees to be able to enjoy those days with their families and their loved ones. So Costco is a company that invests heavily into their employees. What happens with their financial performance? Should shareholders worry about that? Well, the answer is again no. Let me tell you why. Over here, you can see the revenues of Costco over the last decade. Now, I included the last decade because I wanted to show a long-term picture of the firm, and also I wanted to include the financial crisis there. As you can see, over the last decade, revenues have been increasing steadily over the years, reaching in 2017 almost $130 billion globally. Now, revenues were resilient even during the financial crisis. In fact, it was only in 1 year, 2009, at the heart of the crisis, that there was a small decrease in revenues, 1.5%. Now, shareholders, further than revenues, are also interested about another indicator, earnings per share, which basically tells us how the profits are allocated on each share. So earnings per share for Costco, it's more or less a similar picture to revenues. They have been increasing over the last decade. There is a drop in 2009 of approximately 50 cents per share, and there is an economically insignificant drop in 2016 of half a cent per share. So revenues, earnings per share, they show a very positive picture. Now, in order to properly understand how good Costco is performing financially, we can see how they have increased these indicators over the years on a year-by-year basis. So revenues, over the last decade, Costco has managed to increase its revenues every single year by almost 7%. Earnings per share, 10%. Now, there are two more performance indicators that are particularly popular: return on assets and return on equity. Now, return on assets reveals how successful is a company to use its asset and generate profits. And return on equity is something similar, but it refers to how successful the company is to generate profits using the shareholders' money invested in the company. Well, return on assets every single year over the last 10 have been increased by approximately 2%, and return on equity by 7%, almost. So obviously, we have Costco, an example of a company that invests heavily in its employees, and we see that it consistently has achieved exceptional financial performance, basically. So why did Sainsbury's shareholders react the way they did? Given this example, why not more companies follow suit and start investing into their employees? In order to get the answers to these questions, we need to understand first how most investors and most managers actually view the firm and the employees within it. Now, this takes us to the classical view of the firm. Now, this is in place for over a century now, and it was established after the developments of Industrial Revolution, the developments that Industrial Revolution brought to agriculture and manufacturing in particular. Now, in this view, what's important for a company is its physical assets. That's where you get the value from. Now, you need employees, but you only need your employees in order to operate those physical assets. Now, in this view, obviously, employee satisfaction has no place in it. And the reason is that the only way that you will be able to boost the satisfaction of your employees is if you overpay them or if they are underworked. And obviously, both are bad for the firm. Now, obviously, this view, well, things have changed over the last century. Now, in developed economies in the UK, moving on or continuing from the example of manufacturing, manufacturing is not about making products and selling products. It's about providing services, providing solutions. Now, the most cited example among those who study this trend to servitization, as is known, is Rolls-Royce. Now, Rolls-Royce business is no longer to simply sell engines. It's to provide services and solutions. Now, these solutions can be very simple, a simple maintenance contract, or they can be full-blown solutions, outcome-based contracts such as Total Care, in which basically an airline pays a secure cost for maintenance and the operation of the jet engine for every hour that the engine is used for flying. And that makes sense because customers now, they want to hedge their risks. What they want or interested in is not ownership. They want to be able to perform their operations. Airlines are not in the business of maintaining engines. They're in the business of flying their planes safely. Now, not only do we live in an economy based on services, but increasingly, we derive value, we derive economic growth, we increase our productivity through knowledge and information. We live in a knowledge-based economy. Now, in this reality, employees are the valuable assets because you need employees that are creative so that they can create or come up with innovative ideas for products and services, but they also need to have the knowledge and the skills to take those innovative ideas from the drawing board to the market. So in this human-centered view of the firm, employee satisfaction has a key place. It is a valuable tool to recruit those high-skilled employees that you need, to retain them, and to motivate them. And especially with respect to motivation, considering that service provision requires very strong relationships with clients and suppliers, motivation benefits are really important. So that's why I believe Sainsbury shareholders reacted the way they did. They still hold on to the classical view of the firm, and they don't realize the value that employee satisfaction can bring to their companies. Now, there is a very simple reason for that. These arguments I just mentioned are really compelling. But the underlying problem is that there is very, very limited empirical evidence, particularly for the UK. So this is what colleagues from the University of East Anglia and I did with collaboration with Glassdoor. We wanted to get evidence that indeed there is a positive link between employee satisfaction and performance for UK companies. So let me tell you what we did. We got all Glassdoor data for UK companies, and then we started some filtering procedures. So first of all, we wanted to make sure that our results are not skewed by disgruntled former employees. So we only focused on current employees. We took those reviews, and then we made sure that for every company, we have a limited number of reviews every year. We set that minimum to be 25 reviews, or approximately 2 reviews per month per company. Now, this led to a sample of just over 35,000 reviews, 164 companies, 4-year period, 2014-17. Now, indeed, this is the first study that performs such an analysis for UK companies, and it's also the first analysis that uses not only public, but also private firms. So let me tell you what we found. So the first thing that we did, we wanted to see whether profitability, as measured by return on assets, is related to employee satisfaction. Now, we wanted to make sure that we account for many, many different factors, which we did. So we considered leverage, total assets, firm size, age, etc. And at the end of the day, what we found was a positive relationship between employee satisfaction and profitability. It seems that those companies with high Glassdoor ratings perform better financially than those that have low ratings in Glassdoor. In fact, what we found is that 1-star increase in your rating in Glassdoor basically is related with 1% increase on return on assets annually. And that's a big deal. Now, obviously, correlation is not the same with causation. So one might argue that, right, you have that findings, that's great, but it doesn't necessarily imply that it is employee satisfaction that drives profitability. It might be the other way around. It might be that firms that do better have more money to invest into their employees. Now, in order to address these concerns, we did a further analysis. If employee satisfaction actually impacts positively firm performance, then what we would expect is for that to be reflected in the stock price or equivalently the returns. So what we did was the following. We ranked all the firms in our sample from those that have the best rating to those that have the worst. We chose the top 25% of them and included them in a portfolio. Every single month, we checked whether the ranking has changed. If it didn't change, then we change the constituents of the portfolio so that always it contains the top 25%. And we check the performance of that portfolio over the 4-year period that we're considering. Now, to do that and to account for risk, we use virtually all models that both academics, but most importantly, practitioners are using. So what we found was the following. When you invest in companies with the best ratings in Glassdoor, you achieve superior returns. In fact, on an annual basis, the portfolio returns were between 10% and 16%, depending on what model we used to account for risk. So these results actually corroborate the previous results. And taken together, they simply suggest that employee satisfaction impacts positively firm performance. When you weigh the benefits of employee satisfaction with the costs, the benefits are superior. Now, one last thing to point out is that we performed our analysis over a period that the UK companies are facing significant uncertainty due to the Brexit referendum and its outcome. Our results indicate that in such periods, employee satisfaction can be a valuable source of competitive advantage for companies. Thank you very much. And I'd like to open up the floor for a couple of questions.
Hi, George.
Yes.
Thank you for that, George. You mentioned at the very beginning that there was a little empirical data, particularly in the UK. Are we much behind the rest of the world in empirical data, or is that a general problem?
It is a general problem. I can tell you that most studies have focused on US companies. And actually, we have done a similar analysis for US companies using Glassdoor data. But even for the US, they are limited. For the UK, they are virtually non-existent. And the problem is that there was lack of data. Okay? Now, with Glassdoor, obviously, this thing has changed. And that's why we were so excited to get access to Glassdoor data and actually be able to perform this analysis. Thank you.
Cheers. Hello? Sorry. So before you mentioned that Sainsbury's, when they reported on their pay increase, they said that people would be better off. Now, that was better off financially.
Yes.
What else would they be able to say about whether employees would be better off holistically? For example, what other benefits were they bringing in to also support the financial increase?
I honestly can't tell you because it was an example I wanted to use just to show that shareholders are not particularly happy with those sorts of investments. So I'm not here to advocate that decision. Actually, it is under employee consultation, and those guys will decide whether it is actually good for them. But one can definitely say that it seems, in terms of compensation, most employees will be better off.
Hi, George. I have a quick question from the live stream.
Yeah.
So we know satisfied employees lead to better company performance. That's great. But how does Glassdoor itself come into it? Is there a way Glassdoor can be leveraged further to somehow increase that positive financial impact on the business?
Well, I believe that Glassdoor, the difference between Glassdoor and other, if you wish, great places to work lists is the fact that Glassdoor gets the employee ratings directly from employees, and these are updated constantly. So I believe that since there is a link, and you have proved a positive link between employee satisfaction and performance, I believe that companies that actually check Glassdoor to see how they perform will provide them with a competitive advantage. Most importantly, if you decide a particular investment in your employees, and it doesn't need to be compensation and benefits, it can be whatever, you can actually see, if you wish in real time, the effect that that decision has on your employee satisfaction, because those ratings are updated constantly. Yeah? Okay, one last question.
Thank you. So can I just clarify my understanding on something that you had up there, talking about the increase in return on assets, when you said you had a portfolio. Are you saying that if people had followed the top 25% highest rated companies on Glassdoor, they would have seen a 10 to 16% increase in the value of their stocks?
That's exactly what I'm saying, yes.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is incredible, and basically it shows the following. At this point in time, it seems that investors don't realize the value that employee satisfaction brings to the firm. Because if they had actually realized that, they would invest exactly that way. They would use Glassdoor ratings, so non-financial information, to pick stocks. And this would have resulted into upward pressure on prices. So that excess return that I mentioned, it would be non-existent. But now it is. So people don't use that information. So obviously it seems that they don't recognize the value of employee satisfaction for a company. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. That was fascinating. And there you have it. Evidence that employee satisfaction does impact on company performance. Right, now we've got our panel, and I'm going to invite them up one by one. They're going to take a seat here, and we're going to run through some questions with them. So first of all, I'd like to introduce you to Kiva Shepherd. She's going to come up. She is Facebook Employer Brands Manager, and she's going to share with us some local insights to their EMA operation. Next, we have Sam Good, if you'd like to come up, Sam. Sam is responsible for recruitment within the UK Nando's restaurant chain. Love Nando's. Then we have Jenna Colley come up, please. So Jenna is key to the EasyJet recruitment operation. She's a recruitment business partner at EasyJet, and Jenna is going to share some insights about some recruiting challenges that EasyJet have. As your household airline in the UK, we all know EasyJet, don't we? And then we have Director of Talent and Development at Telefonica. We have Michelle Adams. Please come up. Now, you may recognise the brand more as O2, okay? So here in the UK, O2. So I'm going to take a seat and I'm going to just run through some questions with them. Are you all ready? Yes? Lovely. Right, okay. So we're going to start off right at the beginning with the candidate journey with recruiting. That's okay with all of you. Sam, I'm going to come to you, and I want to find out from you what makes Nando's stand out so much that you're able to hire great talent in the hospitality industry.
Well, arguably, we don't actually do much different in terms of the mechanic of the way we recruit compared to our friends in the hospitality industry. I think what sets us apart is the authenticity of our content that we post out via our social media channels, via any of our other channels, to be honest. We really try and reflect the heart of Nando's, which is our people, and usually it's the voice of the people that we use. So a prime example of this, which we're incredibly proud of, was a partnership with Glassdoor last year, where we used Glassdoor comments, the good, the bad, the ugly, constructive, and we plastered them all over the London Tube. You may have seen some. And this was a really awesome way of us turning our brand inside out to get people to really understand what it's like working for Nando's, rather than a recruitment team telling you. Why not hear it from our employees themselves, both past and present?
And that was at the beginning of the year you did that?
Yeah, it was, and we saw a great uplift. There was lots of noise internally at Nando's. People were very excited. We had lots of selfies of people on tubes next to marketing campaigns, but also externally. So we saw a great uplift to our careers website, direct traffic, which was amazing. People engaging with our employer brand as much as people engage with our consumer brand.
Brilliant, lovely. Okay, so going over to Jenna, are you able to share with us some tools or software that you use at EasyJet to make it easier for you to find informed candidates?
So the basic stuff around LinkedIn, obviously we use that a lot for our direct searching, but also we're venturing a lot more into the social media channels. So sharing content across Twitter, Facebook, and obviously Glassdoor really helps us show our cultural story as well as our job and consumer brand. We want to get across more of the employee brand. So we do find that the content we share across social media about our people and about our internal story is much more successful in terms of engagement. So we lean on that. And then also our own people are the best voice for us. So we have a referral scheme internally. So we know that our own people, if they are enjoying it and enjoying their job here, they're going to be able to sell it, you know, as best as we can to their own friends and family to join us as well.
And I suppose if your people see like a tweet, they'll retweet it. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And we, before, you know, from this kind of security aspect of our crew and pilots, social media is a bit, oh, you know, we shouldn't be on it too much. Now we're an advocate of it, and we want to show our people around the network meeting customers because we are a very friendly and informal brand with our customers.
Yeah, so you've got that social flow running throughout EasyJet. That's good. Michelle, coming over to you. You feel so far away. Can you just explain to us what recruiting challenges there have been in 2018 so far for you at Telefonica O2?
Absolutely. I think the UK is an extremely competitive marketplace for skills, probably more so than many other geographies, not least because, as you've described this morning already, you know, candidates are extremely well informed. They know a lot about jobs. They can access those on various sites and can compare and contrast companies quite easily. Obviously, we work in the tech sector. You know, that's a historically very competitive and pretty pacey environment. You know, looking for hot skills. Data analytics and cybersecurity and all those sorts of things. So I think that remains a challenge, not unique to 2018, but that's one generally. And I think, you know, digital is becoming the heart of everything. We certainly feel that and see that as a business more broadly. So for us, it's about how we use digital to be more efficient in the processes that we run, and also to enhance the candidate experience. So I would say that's probably the second challenge for us. And the third one, I think, is just, you know, the gig economy is talked about a lot. You know, quite that what that means is, you know, is a bit of a crystal ball in terms of how you really navigate that. But we're trying to think carefully about, you know, when something is a permanent opportunity and when it's not, and being a little bit more conscious in our consideration of, you know, of the skills that are out there and not necessarily having to employ them in a conventional way.
Okay. This question I want to ask the whole group, so feel free to sort of like just join in where you want to. As recruiters, how do we balance conflicting priorities with hiring managers' expectations? And then what advice would you give for recruiting teams that want to build strong relationships with their hiring managers?
Should I go first?
Please
so
do.
My biggest advice would be, especially with EasyJet, it's a fast-paced, dynamic environment, and I am forever managing hiring managers' expectations because I don't want to overpromise and then under-deliver. So I am the kind of subject matter expert for my division of recruitment, and I want to be consultative with them to make sure that we are going about the process in the best way. So managing expectations early on with the insight you can get from the market is crucial to building that relationship so they trust you.
Great, lovely. Anybody else?
I'd just add to that we really encourage our recruiters to spend time with hiring managers, not just in a direct transactional relationship, I need someone, hire someone for me, but actually spend time in their business areas, spend time with their teams, spend time in the pub, just getting to know them and getting to know them on a sociable level. So actually those interactions are so much less transactional and so much more meaningful, so you actually know what you're working towards together.
I completely agree. I think if the process is almost taking over, and as recruiters, you know, you've got a lot to be getting through, but if you hide behind an email, you know, the word you used was relationship, and you can't be a trusted advisor if you're not, as Sam and Jen say, you know, actually building a relationship genuinely.
Lovely. Okay. Jenna, coming to you, can you just give us an idea of some innovative ways that you and your team use to reach out to hard to find candidates and those roles that are hard to fill?
Yep. So we are going through the process at the moment of trialling new websites for recruitment. So we're currently on with an Entello and also anygood.com, which is a referral website where people out in the industry can refer someone they know and get fed through us directly. And that's really crucial for hard to fill roles where we've got a niche skill set and, you know, LinkedIn with people that are looking to move on, or passive candidates, we aren't able to tap into the market. So it's using those people out there to refer. But also social media. So a lot of airlines don't have, or a lot of businesses don't have career-specific social media handlers. They just have their generic brand account. And we found that having a separate careers account, so EasyJet Careers on Twitter and EasyJet Careers on Facebook, has really helped us tap into candidates rather than customers, and making sure, whilst we treat our candidates as customers, you know, it's not a transaction, it's more of a relationship and a build-on from that. We make sure that our content is specific to those market areas to make sure that we can then, you know, be telling the story of that niche skill set to the right market.
Great, lovely. And one for you, Sam. Glassdoor research shows us that cost per hire and the candidate demographics are the top two priorities for most employers. Is that the same for Nando's, or do you have different priorities?
Actually, no, we don't look at cost per hire. It's not that we have an endless pot of money. I wish we did. But we would much rather focus our time and energy on finding the right person for that role, looking at someone's attributes, their cultural fit, rather than thinking about how much it's going to cost us to hire that individual. I think the way the metrics we've started looking at and the data we're starting to use much more is around engagement through the recruitment process, so candidate experience using Glassdoor, but also other metrics, but also that first 90 days to 12 months, looking at engagement post-hire to see whether that influences successful candidates, what people are looking for, how we can go out and find people that are really going to be successful at Nando's and really engage with our brand.
Okay, that's good. And a show of hands from my panel, please. Have you had questions from candidates about your Glassdoor reviews? Yes? Okay. And how, you can just shout out here, how do you handle those questions?
So a lot of ours recently have been because the analysts are using it as part of our defence. So when the closure, sadly, of Monarch, our Glassdoor data was as one of the top places to relocate those people to. So a lot of questions came around, you know, why is your Glassdoor rating 4 out of 5? You know,
a couple have picked up on some recent reviews as well. And we're quite honest as when we were asked about them, is they're all done by our own people, and we recognise that. And actually, when we see trends in our reviews, we will then feed that back to the relevant department to say, look, a lot of people in crew are saying this, or a lot of people in payroll are saying this. So we actually use the data, and we're seen to be internally as well.
Right, lovely. Anybody else want to add anything?
I really love it when candidates come and talk to us about our Glassdoor comments and reviews, because I think it almost gives them that flavour of Nando's before they even step in from the voice of our employees. So we often get people come and talk to us about, I saw this on Glassdoor, and usually it's really, really positive, which is fantastic, and they get that taste of our culture, but also the reality of what it's like working in a very busy restaurant with a lot of demands. We really love it, and we love that candidates are increasingly coming to us with a perception of what it's like to work at Nando's, and usually we can just validate that.
Good, lovely. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to look into a strong employer brand and how that relates to employee retention. So, Sam, I know you just finished that question. We're going to come straight back to you again. Do you screen candidates with employee retention in mind? And then what certain key qualities are you looking for?
I think it's something we think about. I think the way we think about it is about how we talk to candidates about roles. Nando's is an incredibly rewarding place to work, and our restaurants are fantastic environments to work in, but as I just said, it's hard work sometimes, and actually painting that really realistic picture through recruitment, through selection, of what it's going to be like grilling chicken, what it's going to be like dealing with the general public, is incredibly important, because it helps people realise that when they're in the job, yes, they'll have an amazing time and they'll be part of our family and they'll love it, but there's going to be tough times as well. I think what we look for, we're incredibly fortunate that the majority of our roles we can give people fantastic training and help them become fantastic Nandokas in our business. So actually we're more focused on what you're going to bring to work, what fantastic attitudes you're going to bring to work, whether you're going to fit with our culture, rather than whether you're going to be able to do the job, because we can help you with that bit. It's about whether you've got that get up and go, want to learn kind of feel about you. And yeah, that's what we probably look for in terms of how we're going to retain you.
Sam, you just spoke a completely different language there. What is a Nandoka?
Sorry, in Nando's we have a wonderful term. It's all part of our culture, and Nandoka is anyone that works for Nando's, but predominantly people that work within our restaurants.
Okay, great. So you've got a whole Nando's lingo, have you? Wow. Okay, one for Kiva. How do you make Facebook a place for people wanting to stay for the long haul? How do you do that? And especially in a very competitive tech industry.
Yeah. Well, first of all, good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be here. I think for us, there's never just one factor in that. It's definitely not going to be one thing that's going to keep your employees happy and keep them engaged and retain them. So Janelle Gale, who's our VP of HR, was actually at your San Francisco tour, and she touched a little bit on this. So we know from research that, employees that spend time doing the work that they enjoy are going to be more productive. And that seems like a simple concept, but a lot of companies don't actually think about it that way. So for us, we actually set a metric that we want employees to be spending at least 70% of their time doing the work they actually enjoy doing. And then how we help kind of like achieve that is through our management. So we spend a lot of time training our managers, and something different at Facebook is that management isn't about leading from the front, it's about being a support system. So our managers are supporters, they're coaches, they help you. We talk about we hire the best talent, and so we're trusting people to come in and do the work. So what they need is, rather than someone telling them what to do, they need someone to support them and to help them grow and to help them achieve their objectives. The other piece on that would be, retaining talent is also around having the culture. So for us at Facebook, Mark created the company, he created the culture. We've got 5 kind of core values about be open, be bold, move fast, focus on impact, and build social value. But one person can't own a culture, especially at the scale that we're growing. it's just not, it's not scalable. And so for us, we feel it's important that every employee takes ownership of that. So when you start at Facebook, at new hire orientation, on the wall, there's a sign in every new hire orientation room across the globe, and it says, this is now your company. And so we want companies to feel owners of the company. And when you feel like an owner, you act like an owner, you then believe in those values, you live those values, and you make sure you adhere to them, and that other people do as well. So we have a great culture of feedback. And so if you see someone not living those values, we give ownership to people to pull those people up, and to make sure that they are. So I think having that ownership, having that support system, getting to do the work that you enjoy, and having people help you grow and develop means you'll keep that staff longer.
Good. Okay. Michelle, can you answer, what do you feel is the biggest recruiting mistake happening right now in the recruiting world?
I think that the worst thing a recruiter could do is in effect be an order taker. I think it's very easy for and understandable for managers within a business to absolutely know what they want, know what that's going to look like, and expect to go out and get that, as I said, probably permanently. I think the reality is recruiters are in an amazing position to have, a lot of data and insight on the market, the way people are viewing work, and the sort of evolution of that sort of working environment. So I think it's really important, back to your point about, building a relationship. Actually, that's at the heart of being the trusted advisor and sort of being in a conversation about what the end result needs to look like without sort of prescribing what it should be from the front end. So I think, that would be the biggest concern for me, is that, recruitment is just order taking the needs of managers who are, well-intended, think they know everything, but frankly probably aren't entirely the expert in the room on that one.
Okay, that's good. And then also, Michelle, stay with you. Many companies now realise that having an employee value proposition, EVP, is very, very important. What was the process that Telefonica went through to actually find their EVP, and how does that help to attract talent into the organisation?
Yeah, so I think we've talked a lot about authenticity already and sort of voice of the employee. I think it's... What we did was sort of look at what matters to candidates, or what the sort of thought process is when you're making a decision about joining a company. And that's a rational decision to a point, but it's also an emotional decision, because you're going to be, potentially investing your life in something that's hopefully quite enjoyable at least 70% of the time. So, that's a big deal. So I think it's easy to focus a lot on, the company information, the benefits you get, and that's all sort of very rational and understandable to want to lay that out. But I think actually really focusing on the emotional, what is it like? What support is there? What is the sort of training ethos or development ethos of the company? What is their social responsibility view? We spend a lot of time, obviously, making sure that we are bringing we have the most inclusive environment and are reflecting our customer base as much as we can from a diversity perspective as well. So it's things like that, bring yourself to work, kind of bringing, as it were, the inside out, that I guess was part of the process of deciding how we articulate that into the market.
Thank you. And one for Kiva. Innovation in employer branding is quite underrated. So how do Facebook bring in innovation for their employer brand? Or what innovative ways have you used to create? Yeah.
I agree. I definitely think it's underutilized in employer branding. And I think for me at Facebook, what's been kind of a joy and a passion of mine is innovation. It kind of comes up in all my reviews, my manager going, she loves innovation, likes trying new things. And I think what I love about where I work is that we're not afraid to fail. Once you learn from those as well. So for me, coming from my background, I'd spent like 9 years in a global agency doing recruitment and marketing, very hierarchical, somewhere where you would be afraid to fail. So to kind of come and actually to have a real like mindset shift for me, I initially first started saying to my manager at Facebook, I'm thinking about doing this, what do you think? And she would be like, you're the expert, go do it, which I love. And so it allowed me to kind of really start thinking of new ways to talk to candidates. So obviously I work at Facebook, so I looked at Facebook products. We just launched Facebook Live, and I thought, what better way than to use our own products to talk to people, and especially at a time when I think people felt that maybe they weren't sure about what it would really be like to work there. We weren't releasing Glassdoor at the time. So people weren't getting those kind of honest reviews, and so for us to be able to kind of like lift the curtain, so to speak, and kind of for people to see the people from the teams, to talk to them instantly, to be able to ask questions directly. It's free as well, which is great. So for me, that was brilliant, and not that I didn't get it, not that I got it right the first time. It's definitely still a work in progress, and I learn each time I do it. But it was just a wonderful way to kind of open up. First of all, we started with the recruiting team. So we started with just having recruiters on the panel talking about their areas that they were recruiting for. And then I kind of used them as my guinea pigs to see how it would work. Things like, knowing that like jangly bracelets don't work on live, or certain, like, when they wear the same color top as the chair and they blend in. So we kind of learned all these different things. And also putting people out there who actually want to be on camera, it's kind of intimidating. This is intimidating. So to actually pick people who actually wanted to do it. So we've learned, and then 6 months later, then we started actually bringing people from the hiring managers in, and they love it. They love being able to talk to candidates, and the candidates love being able to talk to actually and see from the hiring teams. So the feedback we've had afterwards is that, you've warmed up this whole pool of people, and they're really engaged, and they're like, I loved hearing that, or I didn't know that you guys did that. I didn't know that team even existed. And that's definitely something a challenge that we've had, is that, we're always building new teams all the time, and so trying to help people understand that actually this team exists, versus just hearing from a recruiter via LinkedIn email, and it's the first time they've heard of that area, to actually be able to participate in live was great. The thing around innovation, we had our university recruiting team going on campus, like I'm sure a lot of you guys do as well. And with millennials, they want to have an immersive experience. I'm not a millennial, so I had to learn about this. So, understanding that they wanted to kind of really get to know us as a company. And particularly when you're asking people, for example, for us to relocate. So we're asking a lot of people to relocate to Dublin. So I had the idea of doing a 360 video tour of the Dublin office. We hadn't done it before. We've an AV team, they hadn't done it before. And again, what I loved about our company is that rather than going, we haven't done it, we don't want to do it, we mightn't get it right, it's like, let's try it. Everyone jumped in. And so we tried that, and now the candidates get an Oculus Rift. They then can actually look around and actually see the office, like feel like they're actually there. And the feedback, again, has been phenomenal. Another thing was we put a GoPro on someone's head and did a day in the life. It did not take a day in the life to film. It took me quite a bit. And again, these things are going to jump into when I try, and the editing was a bit of a nightmare. So again, I love the fact that, like, innovation, we should be using all these new tools, we should be trying, and I think for me, it's about companies being willing to take a risk. You're not always going to get it right, but when you get it something even somewhere right, it's amazing what you can do and the engagement that you get from candidates as well. As you can tell, I'm passionate about it. Yes.
Great. Okay. And Michelle, your company has invested a lot into employee training. What successes have come from that, and does that attract a lot of people to your organisation because of the training?
Yeah, I hope we're not unique in understanding that the development of our people is really key to keep them, current, and knowledge is important, but knowledge changes as things evolve. So we're constantly, seeking to ensure that our employees have the skills they need. So development is key. A bit, as I said earlier, digital experience is part of that. And in fact, we've just launched this week, very proud, a completely new learning proposition in O2, which is, very digital at its heart. It's sort of anytime, anywhere. You can sort of build your own playlists. It's very kind of sort of YouTube meets Netflix meets kind of, playlist sort of Spotify type stuff, which is great. And I think making development accessible, appealing to a modern learner who's maybe sort of, wanting to do it a bit here and a bit there and not so much necessarily in a classroom is really important. I think, return on investment of development is a notoriously difficult thing to pin down. We've in our sales organisation, we have done that because, in a way, targets are more tangible and easy to identify, and we, in working with the sales organisation to establish what competencies were seen as being, those that were required, and then working towards the development of people to those competencies, we were then able to see that the people who kind of were competent, formally competent, were actually bringing in up to 30% more revenue than those that weren't at their sort of competence footprint, and also earning more for themselves. So it was a kind of win-win. So I think there are elements where you can see where the investment really makes a difference, but I think just inherently, we know that developing people is an important and right thing to do. And I think you can kind of make a bit of an industry out of trying to sort of measure that to the nth degree. So, yeah, development is definitely up there as one of our big things.
Thank you. Sam, I see that you're wearing a Nando's shirt today. It's very, very nice. I like it. Can you just tell us how the employer brands, the merchandise, all of that, how does that engage your employees?
So we give all of our managers and all of our central support teams who are kind of the non-uniformed employees a clothing allowance, and it's incredibly special to Nando's because I can go and buy whatever shirts, pink shirts I want, or whatever t-shirts or whatever with that clothing allowance, and then we brand it so that people feel connected. It's all about people being able to be themselves at work, being able to represent their own style, their own uniqueness, their own special things, but all being part of that Nando's family. Tiny, tiny detail, but we have it just above our heart so that we are always connecting our values to and our passion for the brand. And we've recently opened something called Loja, another Nando's term, which is a little shop in our offices, which is visited by all of our employees at some point during their induction process, which is handcrafted clothing from South Africa, where we originated. And it's not just about stamping the Nando's logo on everything. It's really beautiful clothing that, again, people can feel really proud to wear and proud to be part of our brand. And people do it. People absolutely love it. I feel incredibly proud to wear a Nando's shirt wherever I go.
I'm fascinated by this Nando's language. Does everybody speak the Nando's language?
Yep, it takes some getting used to. We do give a little glossary in your induction. So yeah, we have. It's interesting because it's so small, but it's so fundamental to who we are, and I think it really enforces our culture and our uniqueness just in the way that we talk about things, which is kind of crazy, really, but it's really, really amazing.
Yeah, it's like, you all belong to something unique, don't you?
Yeah.
Right, I'm going to go down the panel here and just answer as I go along. So what I want you to do is just finish this sentence for me, please. And the sentence is, we became a best place to work because... I'm going to start with you, Kiva.
Oh, God. It's not just one thing, though. We become a best place to work because of a multitude of functions, from HR providing amazing benefits to our employees that keep them happy, to the learning and development that they get. As I say, it's such an important part for employees. Oh God, what else? Engaged employees who are happy, who get to do the work that they enjoy, and a company that lives its purpose. And that to me is why we're this company.
Thank you.
Probably quite similar. I think in one sentence, it's ultimately our people that have made us a best place to work. People that are living our values day in, day out, and continuing to make our very special culture thrive. So yeah, I'd say our people.
Lovely.
Following on from that, so I would say our people, we say that our own people have got the orange spirit, and if you don't bleed orange, then we're kind of, you know, you almost, once you're immersed in it, you start bleeding orange, and believe in us to the end. So our people, and also our open and honest culture. So our CEO sits amongst us in our offices. We're all hot desking. So it's the fact that we have contacts in all the different functions to be able to make your life easier at EasyJet.
I think there's a theme here. Yeah, I would agree. I think Best Place to Work is about having a strong purpose and values, and that being clear and almost the North Star by which everyone gets what you're trying to do and can buy into that.
Thank you. And to become, this is for all of you, to become a best place to work, are you able to share with us a challenge that you come across with employer branding or the whole recruiting journey?
I guess for us, it's acknowledging that we're not perfect, that we need to keep listening. We need to keep listening to our candidates. We need to keep listening to our Nandokas. We need to keep listening to everyone that comes into contact with the Nando's brand, and have an open mind and an open heart with that, and help use that to help us shape our employer brand going forward. And sometimes it's tough to do that. But that's what we strive to do.
I think ours would be for candidates and our own employees is treating them like customers. So whilst we want you to come and work for us and give us a lot, we always want to share back to them what they're going to get from us in terms of development, benefits, and just having that transparency of the give and the get.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's about acting on the feedback that you get. So, yeah, you know, just evolving and listening and responding to, you know, what you're being told, positive and otherwise, by the people that work for you, and indeed the people, you know, who aspire to work for you, because, you know, not everybody obviously ends up being an employee, but you can learn a great deal from the candidates that are coming along the way as well.
Great.
I think for me, actually, what's interesting was actually getting employees to actually leave reviews. And I was talking about this earlier to one of the guys here. So for me, it was actually letting employees know we want you to leave reviews. We want to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. For us, it's an essential tool. Like, even though we have a culture of feedback at Facebook, this is also another opportunity for us to hear, and it's anonymous, from our employees, and allow us to act on that feedback as well. So, you know, we're an engaged employer on Glassdoor. We respond to reviews, and we want employees to tell the world. I mean, when we do new hire orientation, I used to do ask a hand raise of who actually looked at Glassdoor, and I think initially people were like, "Oh," and I'm like, "It's not a trick. I do want to know. You know, I would love to hear." So, you know, at the time it was about 30%. This is about 18 months ago, and now that it got up to about 70%. And then I asked, if you didn't see a review for that team, you know, how did you feel? And they're like slightly frustrated. So I then go back to the business and I say, you know, we want you to encourage your teams to leave reviews, because it really helps with candidates that they actually go on and they actually see that particular team they want to join, to hear from that team, and not just other teams. From other teams, they can hear about the culture, they can hear about, you know, maybe the management support, but they actually want to hear from those teams. So for me, a big thing is actually getting the employees to leave reviews. Yeah, so that's kind of an ongoing piece for me.
Okay, that's good. Just a quickie, I just want to ask Jenna, do you manage the Glassdoor page? Oh, and do you have a team helping? No, it's just you? Okay. And how do you use your Glassdoor page to recruit and retain?
So we've got a paid profile on Glassdoor now, which allows us to advertise our jobs at the side of competitors or targeted companies. So that's been a real benefit for us. So where we've seen crew landing onto maybe British Airways page, our jobs are actually coming up the side, so they're kind of attracted over to apply for us instead. But yeah, it's just me who runs it, and honestly, it's 10 to 15 minutes a day, just going on, making sure we're up to date with responding to reviews and posting updates, whether it's business updates about new routes or anything that we've launched that's interesting to candidates to know that we're expanding, or even just stuff going on around our glamorous location of an aircraft hangar in Luton. So any cultural events that are going on there, we just try and share our story externally across there.
Great, lovely. Okay, what we're going to do now, we're going to hand over to the audience, and there's a mic going around somewhere. I can't see. Oh, there you are. Hello. Do we have any questions from the audience? We have one over here, and we've got one at the back there.
Hi there, thank you very much. One thing that I wanted to know, we're looking at using Glassdoor as a recruitment tool, but also all the other things that you've talked about, getting some feedback from our employees and things like that. Data analytics is something that's quite interesting to me and my boss. How do the panel use the data analytics tools in Glassdoor, and what do they do with that information, and what are the key triggers that they look for?
So did you hear that to the panel? Data analytics, how do you use that?
I mean, for me, what Glassdoor provides is an understanding of like where we're at. You know, do I have enough reviews? So, for example, do I need to go back out to the business to make sure we've got enough reviews for that region? It helps me understand what people are saying. Like, it raises up reviews for me. It allows me to understand both, not just from the reviews from the employees, but also candidates going through the journey and candidates who've gone to interview. So again, that's feedback that we can take back to our team who look after the candidate experience and help them understand more around what candidates are saying through that process, and whether they've gone through it or they actually didn't make it through the process. And then, you know, it helps you understand ratings, so you understand like where you sit, so you can set expectations. So yeah, for me, I love the analytics. It helps me understand more about the candidates, the employees that are leaving reviews, but also in terms of like what they're saying, but also candidates who are going through the process with us, and where we're doing well and should do more of that, and where we're actually falling down, and we need to pivot and help close those gaps.
Can I just add, with us being a European company as well, it helps us tap into the markets of, you know, whether reviews in certain locations geographically are less than, say, Luton as the head office. So it helps us tap into the work with the HR team in that country to make sure that we're, you know, maybe focusing on something that's going on in that base, to make sure that we're highlighting it and addressing it with our own people.
Any other questions?
Sure. You talked about the candidate experience and measuring engagement throughout for the Nando's talent acquisition process. Can you just talk me through what kind of tools you're using? Have you found anything unique, anything innovative in the marketplace?
Probably not, if I'm honest. So we overlay lots of different things. We'll use surveying through our normal candidate workflow to see kind of different at our different touch points. More about, as I said, that kind of emotional connection they have with the brand. We'll overlay that with any Glassdoor data coming through. And then on the internal side, I guess when the employee has become a Nando's employee, we'll be using our kind of internal employee survey data. We're very fortunate that we are able to track that against different lengths of service amongst groups of people, so that we can look at that in line with candidate data as well. So nothing too revolutionary. I think it's just about getting all of your information into a room and kind of seeing what story that tells, if any story at all. And then if there are gaps in that story, thinking about how you can plug it.
Do we have time for a couple more? One more. We got one over here.
Hi, what advice would you give to a business that's looking to venture into the Glassdoor market? What are your sort of top tips maybe that you should or shouldn't be doing?
Anyone in particular? Or
yeah,
to the panel?
for the panel, yeah.
What advice?
So mine would be just even just dedicating 10 to 15 minutes a day to get on and responding to the reviews. We found that if someone, current or past employees, leaving a review and they don't get a response, it almost feels like a black hole and it wasn't worth anything and nothing's been acted on. Whereas if we're responding, we're seen as an engaged employee. We've now just got the open company status on Glassdoor, which means that we're transparent with all the reviews we get, with all the updates we're doing. So just dedicating 5-10 minutes a day really helps build out your profile and just seen as an engaged employee on there.
I think for me, it's just making sure you've got a comprehensive brand on there. So making sure you fill out your profile as fully as possible, and then regularly update. So we would see it as We obviously post regularly on our Facebook channels and our LinkedIn channels, on Instagram, but also we see Glassdoor as part of that as well. So, you know, when I'm doing a campaign for recruitment, and people want to know, well, where are you going to be advertising? Like, I would go through, like, I'm going to do Facebook ads, I'm going to do Instagram ads, I'm going to do LinkedIn, but I'm also going to share it on these channels, and Glassdoor will be one of those as well. So I think keeping people engaged constantly, whether it's just about articles or it's new videos that you're launching, just keep people regular with that.
And I guess as much as a employer brand platform, see it as a platform for listening and a platform for improving what you do and making your processes even better. Because that's such a powerful thing to have at your fingertips, to get the good, the bad, and the ugly, to allow you to then understand your process better and feel the pain points as a candidate, or the amazing points as a candidate, and really harness those.
I think ultimately, if you're doing good things as a business, you know, the results kind of come off their own back. So, you know, to the point, I think, you know, address the things you're hearing that maybe aren't so great if you can, and just emphasise obviously what is really good, and that's, I guess, how we've ended up being on this stage, hopefully.
Great, thank you very much. So, really good questions. So, we are now going to go on to our fireside chat, but let's put our hands together for a great panel. Thank you. Okay, so we're now going to go straight into our fireside chat. So I'd like to bring up to the stage now Samantha Zupran, Vice President of Global Corporate Communications and Employer Brand for Glassdoor. And over here we have Carol Pascoe-Demergue and CMO L'Oreal HR Group. So welcome to the stage.
Hello, it is such a pleasure to meet you. So, okay, to shake things up, since we mixed up the agenda just a little bit, and so I'm stopping you from getting caffeinated even more, just by a show of hands, how many people came here today to get some recruiting advice and things like that? No. 1, 2, great. 4 people, fantastic. Okay, and how many people came here to think about brand and think about their employer brand? Excellent, excellent, good, okay. And how many people came here for personal financial advice? Right. Okay. So I did realize, as somebody who is thinking about brand and corporate communications, that we've made a huge error in calling this the Best Places Tour. George, it should now be the Personal Finance Tour. So we will correct that later on. Anyway, it really is a tremendous honor. I have been with Glassdoor since the very early days, so it is just incredibly special for me in particular, but also just to see you all here. So one kind of special fun fact about Glassdoor is we've actually been around now for about 10 years. So as you all, I think, well know now, you know, we came up with the reviews and salary information. And within a couple weeks of Glassdoor starting, we had appeal from people in over 100 countries. And this was in just 2 weeks of Glassdoor launching. And so we've maintained that footprint and have people coming from over 190 countries coming to Glassdoor to share their workplace experiences because they see this value, right, that they're getting out of this to help make that next job decision about where they're going to go. But of course, you know, Glassdoor's vision about what we want to do, and so why it's really interesting to think about this, and why I asked the recruiting question, is we really aim to be the largest and most useful recruiting company out there. As John mentioned earlier, we are now one of the fastest growing in the world and are the fastest growing in the UK. But we had this approach that we really wanted to tackle kind of what this pain point was, right? This pain point that we as just individuals, not just as our business mind, wanted to get out. We wanted to tackle the ambiguity that was happening in the job market. There's ambiguity for the job seeker. There was ambiguity for the recruiter. And so, of course, at Glassdoor, we really feel that with workplace transparency, there can be these, you know, bountiful benefits for both the job seeker and the employer. So, of course, here we are today in today's job market, and you've heard a lot about people being more informed and getting that edge and so forth. And I think that really is that strategic edge that many employers really do have, right? It's that information about your jobs, and it's not just that job description and what you have, but it's like, really, like, what's that job gonna be like? It's information about the company, and it's that authenticity around that. It's information about your managers and about your leaders. And that information then, of course, is your reputation and it's your brand. I really am just so excited to be here with a long-term partner, L'Oreal, another Best Place to Work winner, and of course, a global beauty brand. I was blown away that L'Oreal has 84,000 employees today, which blows my mind. But also what's incredibly impressive is this has been a company that has been around for 100 years. So not only is this a company that really gets what its customers want, right? So their consumer brand, but also really gets what their employees want, their employer brand. So I thought, as of course, here we are talking about informed candidates, I had to, of course, be an informed speaker. So of course, what did I do to go get my information? I went to Glassdoor, right? Okay. So I went to go check out L'Oreal's profile on Glassdoor and just kind of get a refresh myself. And I think if you go visit that, you'll see this very telling, very clear, very simple message that they have about their employer brand. They say, lead the future of beauty. If you're an impact-seeking inventor, a driver of disruption, take L'Oreal to the next level with us. Now think about that. That's pretty powerful. Okay, so here's this company that has been around 100 years, right? So they've got like reputation coming out, right? And they're not saying, don't come join us for that company that we were 100 years ago. Don't come join us because of what you thought we were 10 years ago. Don't come join us for the company that we are today. Come join us because you want to come do something different. You want to redefine what it means to be a global beauty brand. That's pretty powerful, all from those few words. And this was me just kind of reading it. I was like, is that really what you meant? That's pretty cool. So I really have the distinct pleasure of having a conversation here with an iconic brand and how they are thinking about employer brand and how this Best Place to Work really thinks about building and growing and developing high-performing disruptive teams. So please join me in officially welcoming Carol Pasco-Dinner, Chief Marketing Officer. All right, so let's have a little seat here. Come along. All right. I love this part. Okay, here we go. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
This is a great honor. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
So let's just start with one of the questions. As I was, of course, again, doing my homework, getting the information, I was like, CMO of HR at L'Oreal. Now, to me, that struck me as a pretty unique job title. So tell me what it is you do in your job and a little bit about your background.
First, I just have to warn you, I'm absolutely not an HR. I have been doing only marketing for 15 years. And yes, I came to that role because someone took a bet, actually. And because together we had this idea of bringing marketing, everything that we know, the focus that we have on people, on consumers and customers, but also people. How would that do or work if we do this for HR? And so our mission is to bring everything that we are using as marketers for our brands, our consumer brands, to the HR field. And so it's, of course, a lot about data analytics and how we use data, how we make data meaningful in a way to drive the project, what's most important for people. So we have the right project. So this is the first thing. The second thing is about, of course, having the right message to the right target and putting into place also a kind of personalized approach when we do a conversation with people. So whoever they are, actually people who are not working at L'Oreal, people who are working at L'Oreal, anyone. So that's pretty much our job. And my team, we have a small team, but an efficient team of marketers. They are community managers. They are consumer intelligence specialists, etc. And so it's really great to actually have this opportunity to apply what we like to do and what's our passion. Doing marketing is my passion, and to apply it to a field that is so meaningful. This was a risk, honestly, that they took, because the outcome was absolutely not guaranteed.
Sure.
I still don't understand a lot about HR. I have a lot of things to discover, but I think it can bring something different to the benefit of people, of course.
Absolutely. You know, it's funny, so it was a month ago, this got mentioned earlier, that we held a stop in San Francisco, and this actually similar point came up, and we asked everybody in the room, how many of you were in your profession, the same exact profession in HR and recruiting in your last job or in prior careers, or have had a different career? And it was like 80 to 90% of the room like raised their hand because they didn't start in the same thing that they're in today. So it's actually not uncommon. And it's also really interesting and I think quite progressive as we think about where work is going, that we are all picking up these different skills as we go along, because of course it makes certain crafts much, much stronger. So let's dig into this. Okay, so let's go into this kind of, you've got this consumer brand, you've got this employer brand, and as you're thinking about this, from your perspective, are you finding there's similarities? Are you finding differences? What's the same as you think about kind of the traditional marketing versus employer brand?
So definitely a lot of similarities. When I first came, you know, the first day, and I discovered the metrics, only the metrics, so awareness, conversion, etc. This was really, really striking. Oh, this is the same metrics that I was using in my previous role, so great. And then three things in particular were really important for me when it comes to what marketing can bring to recruitment or how close they are. First, the importance of targeting, of having a target actually, and really, really focus on this target and dig deeper in who they are, the people that you want to touch. Who they are, so where they are, what do they want, how they do it, what are their dreams, their expectations, their whatever. And so this is the exact same thing that we do, that we like to do for consumers. And I discovered that if you don't do that as recruiters, actually you will be not touching the ones that you really want to hire, the talent that are really, really necessary to build the future of your company. So this is really, really starting at the, you know, even before going out there, even before leaving, I don't know, or posting on a job on LinkedIn or whatever. And so this is really crucial to start by there. The second point is about, of course, creating a great experience. So I guess you know some things about the funnel and how marketeers love funnels in general. Definitely, creating a great experience is really, really important as well in recruitment. And for us at L'Oréal, what we try to achieve is to go more into a personalized experience. This is really in line with our values as a company. We value the unique voice of each and everyone, and so personalization makes sense for us as an experience. And then creating an experience is a way also to make recruitment more efficient, meaning if you apply, let's say, all the marketing technologies for, you know, some parts of the experience and personalize, I don't know, the communication or the back and forth or the information side of recruitment, basically the recruiter has more time to assess actually whatever it is that they want to assess, or to meet with the candidate and to actually spend time trying to discover who is this person and how it can join this company. And so this is the second thing. And the third thing is really, really related to Glassdoor and to what we all say, is about authenticity. Of course, at L'Oréal, when you are a marketer and you work on a project, a brand or a product or service, you discover very quickly that there is no point in telling stories. You cannot lie, actually, because if you lie, you're going to lose your business. And so it's the exact same thing for people, I would say. You cannot lie about yourself, about your company, about how the building looks like. You cannot lie about the culture. So we find it's very, very precious to build transparency, and we are obsessed actually with building this transparency.
Yeah, very good.
That's it.
We, of course, had a chance to meet just a little bit before this, and I really loved what you said, which was recruitment is marketing, or of course, flip that, marketing is recruitment, right? And I think that's it. So to me, this is one of the biggest observations I've had, of course, through my time at Glassdoor in particular, is that if you don't have somebody in your role at your company, like that is the number one key, is go talk to your marketers, right? Go talk to your marketers and what are the skills and tips and tricks that you can pick up from them, and then bring that back in, because then there is that common language of how do you be authentic and how do you be transparent, as you said. So let's switch a little bit to candidate interviews. Okay, so candidate interviews, I know, can be this a big, arguably first impression of your company, where they're getting a good deep dive as to what's going on. What does L'Oreal do to create that really great impression, or that really, it's a brand moment, right? How do you think about that?
So we are a very, very human in our approach. First, we start with a big smile, and actually this is really, really the basic.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's
but
an
it's important,
thing.
No,
that's important. It's funny, I remember there was this HR leader from a couple large tech companies in the Valley, and he said, if you really want to find out what a company is doing and what they're like, see what the first impression is of that person at the front desk. And that will tell you what the company is like. So that smile is, all joking aside, is actually quite a serious thing.
So you said it, recruiters are at the front desk, definitely. And then candidates can, I think, feel it from the first moment. We have something that is really, really special at L'Oreal. We focus absolutely everything, every question or whatever, on the people that we are meeting with. This is the most important thing about being interviewed at L'Oreal. The recruiter or the hiring manager would really be obsessed in finding what's special about you, what are your plans, what do you like, what are your dreams, and so all this to actually try to feel the kind of value that you can bring to the company, and if you can be happy, of course, at L'Oreal, and also what is your potential, and do you have that mindset that will make you very, very successful at L'Oreal. This is why the most important thing for all the recruiters of L'Oreal around the globe is really the focus that they, I don't know how to say it in English, the focus. Sorry.
So it's interesting, right? So Riva, I think you mentioned it at Facebook, for example. It's always this wonderful moment when a candidate discovers perhaps a group or something like that they may not have known existed at your company, or something that you did, right? And you and I kind of talked about the same thing, that there might be certain targets, if we're using marketing terms. What's the biggest kind of misconception that you find candidates perhaps might have that fit into that bucket, and what do you do to kind of get them on track, basically?
So there are lots of misconceptions, honestly. Sometimes I find people, even me, myself, when I'm attending dinners or whatever, in the private circle, some people just don't think some things that are quite weird about the work that we do at L'Oreal. They imagine that I'm spending my days, trying on lipsticks or something like that. And so, so people that are external to L'Oreal, they just cannot imagine what we are doing, and especially if they are not, really our primary target for our brand, I mean. but there, the point is really to make them conscious of what they can find inside L'Oréal and that they will find inside L'Oréal. And for this, our main strategy has been to go really open. So of course we are an open company on Glassdoor, but not only. We really want to open the doors physically, digitally, and so we do, of course, live sessions with our people to show how we work at L'Oréal. We of course rely a lot on employee-generated content. We definitely encourage our employees to share their content, their pictures, their moments, and it's really something that we have started, I would say, 18 months ago, and it's really working. And yeah, we also have some things that are much more organized to try to make people conscious of how we innovate at L'Oréal. In particular, there is a game that we organize that is called Brainstorm. It was created 25 years ago. Can you imagine? But it's still very dynamic, and so. With this game, actually, people can join us and act as they were in charge of a business, or part of the business of L'Oréal, and interact on this issue that they have to solve with the L'Oréal people. And so they work together. By working together and by innovating together, actually, people find out what it is to work for real at L'Oréal. And so, well, being open to other and making people join us in this path. That's it.
Got it. So you touched on, I think, a little bit there about employee advocacy,
yeah.
right? And you and I were talking about how prior to this that your leaders can go out there and say, please share your story, and then it can absolutely fall completely flat, right? Yes. But it's often to the manager. So you as a manager of people as well, how do you advocate for people to tell their story?
This is a difficult question because as a leader, I would say, I don't want to force people. Some people just don't feel it, and some others are really eager to share in the open. And so, yeah, I don't want to force people. What we say is that very simply, okay, you can talk about L'Oréal. We like that you talk about L'Oréal, so go on, do not hesitate. We have one simple thing that you can check if you want to have more information or whatever, a contact if you have a question. So you can go, and then they choose to go or not, and that's a first step. A second step that we took at L'Oréal is we tried to apply whatever marketing tool that I knew from my previous experience, and it's a tool that actually manages the user-generated content that is already public on various channels, and so. And this tool proposes you the user-generated content and manages the rights to use the pictures of whatever. And so just by implementing this tool and contacting the people who have published the content and reaching out and telling, oh my God, you are perfectly understood, or you are living a great experience at work, or whatever. Do you allow us to reshare your content? And so this little thing, first created a kind of happy feeling in, let's say, for our advocates, our organic advocates, and then encourage them in sharing more and talking about it. It's word of mouth, positive word of mouth. And so we rely a lot on this. We are not a very processed and very, very structured company. We are a kind of organic, living, company. This is really, really important to have tools that can adapt perfectly to this thing.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We've been talking really a lot about diversity of thought and diversity of skills, right? But of course, a very popular topic in the world today is, of course, just making sure that you have a diverse workforce. And as, of course, again, doing the research, I noticed that L'Oreal has really gotten a lot of great praise about this. So what do you do to help kind of build a strong, diverse workforce?
Thank you for your question. Diversity is indeed a very, very big topic for us. And first thing, I think maybe it have been easier for L'Oreal to recognize that diversity is absolutely vital for any business because of our, what we call our métier in French, because of beauty, actually. Beauty is definitely linked to humanity and to the diversity of humanity. And so long ago, not years ago, but decades ago, our leaders and people and searchers, they realized how much diversity was important in beauty and that for sure they wanted to have a diverse workforce to make sure that our business was going into the right direction. So here it is, decades ago, they realized that. And so they committed and they put diversity at the core of everything we do. So our business, of course, our strategy for innovation, our acquisition strategy, or anything. And so particularly for the way we work, of course. And so diversity at L'Oreal is making sure that each and every employee or each and every partner or whatever have a unique voice and can use this voice to bring his points. This is at the core of the way we work, and honestly, I don't know if there is another way that is more efficient, but it's almost a kind of philosophy. So this is the first thing, the context, I would say. But then L'Oreal, of course, is participating in many, many different partnerships, helping associations. Right now, this is a special week for us. We are celebrating 20 years of partnership with UNESCO in the creation of For Women in Science. So, and 20 years. So it's really a lot. And L'Oreal is really committed to help not only our employees or our direct partners, but the associations and I would say, environment to bring diversity. And then, even more precisely, we are really, really committed on 3 things. So accessibility is absolutely key. At L'Oreal, you have to have access to everything that is needed to do your job, whoever you are. And so it means that technology has to adapt, workplace has to adapt, and people also have to adapt. So this is very key, and this is something that we pay a lot of attention to. So this is the first thing. The second thing is equality. So is a big topic, and we started. So my boss actually started a long time ago, and now we have no significant difference in terms of pay gap between men and women, for instance. So this is an achievement. This is an achievement, but really equality is a big value that we have, and then it comes also together with meritocracy. Meritocracy fosters diversity in the workforce, because as soon as you're recognized for the value of your ideas, definitely there is no question. And so meritocracy is really linked to diversity for us. That's it. Sorry, it was a little bit long, but it's an important subject for us.
Absolutely. I think that's fantastic. It's really interesting too at Glassdoor. So I think George mentioned, so we have a chief economist, and so our chief economist, what we often do is we kind of practice what we preach, right? And so he's created this algorithm that studies our own pay. So every time we do pay increases and bonuses, we put them through to look at if there's any gender disparity. And so that really is, it's nothing small. So I definitely appreciate that. And if you are not sure what that looks like, we give the algorithm out for free so that you can run your own pay through that as well. So something very important to look for in case you're interested is glassdoor.com/regions. Okay.
Try it.
Oh, yeah. So let's go back to a marketing concept, right? Which is, in marketing, there is this term lifetime value, right? And it's not just about the value of your customer right now, but it's about the value of your customer in the long term as well. Do you think about that when it comes to employer brand, and like, because obviously there's retention involved in that? How do you think about this?
Well, definitely, this is very important in business, and it's maybe even more important in the HR field. For us, when I think of retention of employee, it's not actually starting at the exit interview, you know. When you come to the exit interview, it's definitely too late. It requires a lot of anticipation and a lot of focus to not get there. And then if you get there, because at some point, if we decide to leave a company, the reason can be maybe a little bit more emotional or personal than if we decide to not use a lipstick anymore. So definitely, you know, there is a difference. But then what really matters is, for us, at least at L'Oréal, is that even if there is someone who is leaving, we keep in touch. And because first, people come back, and second, we very often want to participate in the projects that our employees want to initiate. So whether it's inside L'Oréal, whether it's outside L'Oréal, and so we definitely want to keep in touch, and that's it. And actually, we try to do this also with consumers. So keeping in touch.
All right, so last couple questions for you. Okay, so I'm going to complete the following sentence as well. So I am successful in my job when...
Oh, when I had a good sleep, I think. This is super important for me.
Well done, yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
No, no. So this is important. When I was younger, or when I started, you know, in working, actually, I was very focused on market shares or share of voices or having a good meeting or having a good discussion. And now I feel successful when my team feels successful. And so actually this is the most important point. And I cannot think of a more joyful moment for me as a leader, except when my team feels successful or is proud of what we do. That's really, really the most important point.
She's hiring L'Oréal, Glassdoor, you can find her. Okay. All right, so final question. What advice do you have those either listening into the live stream or, of course, here in person on how to recruit like a best place to work and how to build a great employer brand? If you could kind of synthesize it for us.
Go open, go authentic, and go transparent. And maybe the last thing is focus on people and trust their intelligence, because you risk nothing, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
really
much.
appreciate
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was great. Fascinating insights there to L'Oréal. So, this brings us to the end. I just want to say thank you to everybody here in the audience. Also, the many, many people that are here on live stream, thank you so much. If you want to find out more, please go to glassdoor.co.uk/employers, and there'll be loads of information on there. But thank you so much for coming today.